Timmy, welcome to Crash Course. Today we're going to be learning about East Asian criminal organizations. Specifically, the Yakuza and the Chinese Triad. Cut the camera to.
So let's begin with the Chinese Triad. Popular folklore suggests that the Triads emerged from an anti-Qing sentiment in efforts to restore the former Ming dynasty in the wake of Manchu conquest in China. And according to stories circulating in southern China since the earliest 19th century, the Qing government burned down the Shaolin Monastery, killing all but 5 monks. Those 5 monks, being the 5 elders, were said to have founded various secret societies for the purpose of restoring the Ming. But in reality, the Shaolin Monastery was never destroyed during the Qing dynasty, and most scholars point to the Heaven and Earth Society of the 18th century as the earliest documented origins for the Triads. Now cut to camera 1.
When the Chinese Communist Party came back to power in 1949, law enforcement once again became stricter, and the tough government crackdown on criminal organizations forced the Triads to migrate back to the British Hong Kong. In 1950, it was estimated there was about 300,000 Triad members residing in Hong Kong, working for 9 major Triads. These Triads divided land according to ethnic groups and were known as the Wo Hop To, the Wo Xing Wo, the Rung, the Tung, the Xuen, the Xing, the Su Nian, the Luen, and the 14K. During the 1956 riots, the Hong Kong government suddenly became much stricter in law enforcement and forced the Triads to become much less active. They resurfaced again in 2014 during Hong Kong protests when a group of middle-aged men attacked student protesters in the pro-democracy protest camps in Hong Kong's Mong Kok district. The men were confirmed to have ties to the Triad organized crime.
The Chinese Triad is pretty loose in structure. Each number is equivalent to rank, so on the very bottom of the uninitiated, the Blue Lanterns. Above them is the 49ers. The numbers are 49. Above them you have the Red Pole, the Enforcers. They're kind of like the military of the group. And then above them is like the Vanguard, who's an operations officer, who like conjoins all the different Triads together. The guy who's the headmaster of each of the Triads is called the Mountain Master. His number is 489. All of these numbers are thought to have some like spiritual relation, but it's really unknown. It's all like the lore and stuff has been lost over time. Now to the lightning round of criminal activity in the Chinese Triad.
The crimes are extortion, loan sharking, prostitution, drug trafficking, heroin and ecstasy, smuggling, gun running, counterfeiting, and interactions with the black market. These crimes primarily take place in countries with significant Chinese populations such as the United States, Canada, Vietnam, Japan, Singapore, the Philippines, Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, the United Kingdoms, Belgium, Netherlands, France, South Africa, Australia, and New Zealand, with their headquarters being primarily in Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan. And now, onto the Yakuza.
So let's begin with the origins of the Yakuza, which began in the Tokugawa shogunate of mid-Edo Japan, around the date of 1603 to 1868. And it began with 2 groups of outcasts. The first group, being the Takaya, were the wandering peddlers who traveled from village to village selling low-quality goods at festivals and markets. And in the early 1700s, they began to assimilate into tight-knit groups under the leadership of bosses and participated in typical organized criminal activities such as turf wars and protection rackets. And to calm the gang wars and violence between these groups, the Shinto government issued oyabins who behaved as the leaders of each group and allowed them to carry a sword, a right that was formerly given to the samurais. And the second group was the Bakutos, who were the gamblers. And in Tokugawa Japan, gambling was highly illegal and is still illegal in modern-day Japan. And these Bakutos, they spotted colorful tattoos which heavily influenced modern-day full-body custom tattooing in Japan. And from their primary business of gambling, the Bakuto branched out naturally into loan sharking and other illegal activities. And even today, specific Yakuza gangs may classify themselves as Takaya or Bakuto. Moving on to the structure of the Yakuza. This is
The Yakuza structure is very family-based and very much stricter than the Chinese Triad was. They have a structure of like foster parents, obuyans, and below them is foster children's, koibans, who kind of run as like a parent and child thing. During World War II, though, the government really cracked down on crime to make sure everybody was part of the war effort, so there wasn't much of it. And afterwards, they all were like, hey, back to crime. So they formed the Yakuza. The Kuchimo is more of the overall boss of everybody. Underneath him, he has senior advisors who are in charge of each of the turf areas where the Yakuza reside. The foster parents are like the middlemen who are in charge of just like the regular members, the foster children who kind of do all the work. To get higher up in the rank, you have to be given sake by someone higher above you and to kind of like welcome you into your new position.
Time for the open letter? I think it is. But first, let's go to the secret compartment. Oh boy. So we have a Nature Valley breakfast biscuit, which is lemon poppy seed. And we have a heroin needle.
An open letter to Opium. Dear Opium, you are a double-edged sword. You started out as being used as a medicinal purpose, and from the 14 to 1600s, you were really only used as a painkiller. After that time, the British started mass producing you in India and then trading you in China. In China, they laced you with tobacco and opened up opium dens. People could just sit around and get high all day. They had wars named after you, the Opium Wars, where the British fought the Chinese to allow trade to happen between the two of them. There's a war just for you. You are mass produced in the Golden Triangle in Southeast Asia and the Golden Crescent in the Middle East. You are the backbone of heroin. Famous authors use you while creating their great works like Alice in Wonderland and Wizard of Oz. You were so great, and yet you became so bad. Yours truly, Steve Buscemi.
In contrast to the Chinese triad, the Yakuza are considered a semi-legitimate organization. For example, one syndicate helped with the Tohoku earthquake in 2011 by providing relief before the Japanese government could get there. However, some syndicates are involved in extortion, human trafficking, drug trafficking, arms smuggling, but they also have legitimate investments in mainstream companies and they are involved in Japanese politics. Most syndicates primarily work in Japan and mainland Asia, but a few work in the US too with just some smuggling of drugs and arms. Now you must be wondering how you get initiated into these criminal organizations. Well, I'll show you in the Thought Bubble! For the Yakuza initiation, a successful candidate must come and meet his Oyabun and sit face to face with him as his sake is prepared by an Azukarinen. The sake is mixed with salt and fish scales and then poured into cups. Befitting his status, the Oyabun's cup is filled to the brim. However, the initiate gets much less since he is uninitiated. Then each person drinks a bit, then they exchange their cups and drink from each other's cup. From then on, the initiate has now been a Kobun and has sealed his commitment to the Yakuza. Now, even his wife and children must take a backseat to his obligations to his new family. The Chinese triad, however, while similar that there's a ceremony, the ceremony will, however, play out differently than Yakuza. The ceremony typically occurs at a location dedicated to Guan Yu, a famous Chinese commander from the Sung Dynasty. Once they arrive, they sacrifice an animal and then mix a drink of wine and blood for the initiate to consume. Once the initiate has drunk his mixture, he will then pass through an arch of swords and recite the triad's 36 oaths. These oaths include many stipulations regarding the defense of their newly sworn brothers and their families, oftentimes saying that they come before their former families. However, if a member was to break these oaths, they would die by one of three methods: a myriad of swords, a myriad of knives, or struck down by 5 thunderbolts where they stand.
Popular folk shit.
Hi, I'm Steve. Oh shit.
Here's the bullet.
Deflected. Deflected. No, good.
Wait, what am I even saying?
Yeah, I don't know.
No, we just need to spin, do we? Or do we?
No, because he's gonna do this.
Yeah, tolerance for secret societies. The British consider the triads a serious threat.
Do you want to just do the turnaround and have that one cut that we can?
The old me. But in reality, the Shaolin Monastery was never destroyed during the Qing Dynasty. Most scholars point to the Heaven and Earth Society.
Guys, Olympus would be that way.